TomoNews presents American Psychos compilation. It's nearly impossible to keep track of the mass shootings that occur in America. Homegrown killers are committing these atrocities on a daily basis. Grab your popcorn or your gun if that makes you feel safer, and let's review the worst mass shootings in recent years. Our first American psycho is the nutjob who shot up the Sandy Hook Elementary School in December of 2012.
The report said that Adam Lanza, the shooter at Sandy Hook Elementary School, shot his mother at close range with a .22 caliber rifle as she lay in bed in her home on the morning of December 14th. Lanza was armed with a Bushmaster XM15E2S, a Glock 10mm handgun, and a Sig Sauer 9mm pistol when he later drove a black 2010 Honda Civic to the school. Officials later also found an Izmash Saiga 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun in the trunk of the vehicle. At around 9:30 a.m., Lanza tried to enter the school but found the front door locked. He proceeded to shoot through the plate glass window to the right of the lobby doors. In the north hallway of the school, Lanza fired upon Principal Dawn Hochsprung and school psychologist Mary Sherlach. Both were killed. He also fired upon two other staff members who survived. At around 9:35 a.m., the Newton Police Department received a 911 call about a shooting at the school. Lanza reportedly entered the main office, but did not see the people hiding inside before proceeding to classrooms 8 and 10. There, Lanza opened fire upon teachers and students. 4 teachers and 20 children were killed in the classrooms. At around 9:39 a.m., the first police officer arrived outside the school. At about 9:40 a.m., Lanza fatally shot himself with the handgun in classroom 10. Although the summary of the report is 48 pages long, with the full version running into thousands of pages, officials still do not know Lanza's motives for the massacre.
Next up, we bring you a racist lunatic from South Carolina who targeted a historically significant church.
Police are investigating a shooting at a South Carolina church that resulted in multiple fatalities. The deadly shooting occurred at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. The shooter, said to be around 21 years old and wearing a grey sweatshirt, jeans and Timberland boots, entered the church and opened fire on members of the congregation, who were in the basement conducting a Bible study. Authorities say that a bomb threat was later called in at the scene. So far, 9 people have been confirmed dead. Police are still hunting for the suspect, and the shooting is being investigated as a hate crime.
Police catch suspected Charleston church killer. This is Dylan Ruth, the man authorities have arrested on suspicion of gunning down 9 people this week at a Bible study. Police have arrested a man suspected of shooting 9 people dead in a South Carolina church on Wednesday night. 21-year-old Dylan Ruth is alleged to have attended a Bible study at the church in Charleston for around 1 hour before he started firing. A manhunt then ensued, and authorities later tracked Ruth 250 miles north of Charleston in North Carolina following a tip-off. According to the Shelby Star, Debbie Dills recognised Ruth and his car from news reports. She alerted police to his presence. Thanks to Dills' tip-off, North Carolina officers were able to find Ruth and arrest him. Ruth is from Eastover, a town near Columbia in South Carolina. Many are calling the charges he faces one of the worst hate crimes in US history.
Our third American psycho was a sexually frustrated spoiled brat from California.
A series of knife and shooting attacks in Santa Barbara on Friday night injured 13 and claimed the lives of 7 people, including 22-year-old college student Elliot Rodger, the person police believe is responsible for the bloodshed. Elliot Rodger began his rampage at his apartment in the 6500 block of Seville Road, which he shared with 2 of his victims, George Chen and Wang Weihan. A third victim, Chen Yuanhong, was visiting. All 3 students were found stabbed to death. Next, the suspect drove his black BMW to the Alpha Phi sorority house at the corner of Segovia and Embarcadero del Norte. Rodger is believed to have banged on the door aggressively for 2 minutes, but no one answered. Rodger left the house and saw members of the Delta 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 sorority across the street. He shot at them, killing Veronica Weiss and Catherine Cooper, leaving a third person injured. Rodger then drove to the Ivy Deli Mart on Pardell. The suspect proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into the deli. One of the shots struck and killed student Christopher Martinez. Rodger left the deli looking for more victims. He allegedly drove down the left side of the road so he could fire at two pedestrians through the driver's side window. From there, Rodger continued onto Del Playa Drive. He shot at a female pedestrian walking alone. Shortly after, he traded gunfire with a sheriff's deputy who was on foot at the time. The suspect then drove further down Del Playa, where he injured a bicyclist with his car. Rodger then shot at more pedestrians at two separate locations before encountering four sheriff's deputies at Little Acorn Park. The deputies came running across the park. Rodger fired at them as he drove. Three of the deputies returned fire and the suspect was struck in the left hip. The suspect then backtracked onto Del Playa. He hit a second cyclist and crashed his car into the back of an SUV. The suspect then ended the rampage by taking his own life. Sheriff's deputies arrived and pulled Rodger's dead body from the car and handcuffed him. Rodger, 22, was the son of Hollywood director Peter Rodger, who worked on movies including The Hunger Games. According to several videos Rodger posted on YouTube, the killings were his way of seeking revenge against girls for rejecting him.
This psycho killed 5 people in a house in Georgia. One of them was his wife.
Police are searching for 26-year-old Thomas Jesse Lee after 5 people were found dead of an apparent homicide in LaGrange, Georgia. 5 people were found dead in a house in LaGrange, Georgia late Saturday night. Police were dispatched to a house in Troup County at about 10 p.m. on Saturday for a wellness check. After they entered the house by force, police discovered 5 dead bodies inside. The bodies were found in different rooms in the house. Police said 4 of the victims were shot to death, but one of the female victims was killed in a different manner. Thomas Jesse Lee is believed to be the husband of one of the victims, Christy Lee. The couple had lived in the house for 3 years.
While we're in the neighborhood, here's another feel terrible story from Georgia.
5 people were killed when a man went on a shooting rampage in broad daylight in Atlanta yesterday, firing at his children, his ex-wife, and her friend. A fatal domestic shooting that took place in Douglasville, Georgia on Saturday began when Cedric G. Prather was seen parking his car on the street and entering a house with 6 people inside, then opening fire. Reports say Prather chased one of his daughters into the street. One neighbor described hearing a shot from her living room, then hearing screaming before she heard 4 more shots. According to the neighbor, when she ran outside, she saw the young girl had been shot in the mouth. Other neighbors called 911 and tried to help the victims before rescuers arrived. Prather was later found at the house with a self-inflicted gunshot wound and later died at hospital. The shooting left adults Latoya A. Andrews and her friend Joseph Terry Brown dead, as well as one 7-year-old and a 9-year-old child. A 15-year-old and an 8-year-old are reportedly in critical but stable condition at a hospital. Police haven't determined a motive for the shooting.
Our next psycho is the last guy you would want to invite on a camping trip.
A 33-year-old Texas man is being held in connection with the deaths of 6 people who were killed over the weekend at a rural Texas campsite. William Hudson has been charged with 1 count of murder, but more charges are expected to follow after 6 members of 2 families were found dead on private property near the Tennessee colony in Anderson County. The alarm was raised early Sunday by the sole survivor of the massacre, Cynthia Johnson, after she made her way to a main road to seek help. Johnson then waited for officers to arrive before making their way to the family campground, where they found the bodies of her husband Carl, 77, and her daughter Hannah inside a travel trailer. The bodies of Hannah Johnson's partner, Thomas Camp, the couple's 6-year-old son, and Camp's 2 older sons were then found on Monday in a pond on land belonging to Hudson. Hudson is the owner of the neighboring property to where the families were camping. Local police have not released the details of how the victims died, although one neighbor reported hearing screaming and gunshots from the property on Saturday evening. Hudson was later arrested at his mother's house nearby. He is being held on a $2.5 million bond.
Door-to-door salesmen may be annoying, but this door-to-door psycho killer is the scum of the earth.
Residents of the small community of Tyrone were left traumatized after a man armed with a handgun went on a door-to-door shooting spree on Thursday, killing 4 relatives and 3 neighbors before turning the weapon on himself. Gunman Joseph Aldridge, described as a recluse, began the rampage after allegedly having a job request denied. After the 36-year-old's application was rejected by neighbor Daryl Shriver, with whom he had long feuded, Aldridge shot and killed the 68-year-old businessman with a .45 caliber gun and injured his wife, Martha. A family relative next also discovered the bodies of Daryl's son, Carrie, and his daughter-in-law, Valeria, in their bedroom after getting a call to check on them from an injured Martha around 10:30 p.m. It's unclear what Aldridge's motives were for next killing his cousin Gerald D. Aldridge and his wife, Julianne, and another cousin, Harold Wayne Aldridge, and his wife as well, Janelle. But when he returned home, he reportedly discovered that his 74-year-old mother had died from natural causes. He later shot himself dead inside his own truck in a neighboring county some 25 miles away. Members of the community first noticed something was wrong when the daughter of one of the Aldridge's cousins ran out of her home screaming that her parents had been shot. Neighbors heard her cries for help, and authorities soon discovered the victims' bodies all within a 3-mile radius from each other. The killing spree's only survivor, Martha Shriver, is currently in serious condition in an area hospital but expected to survive. Neighbors say Aldridge kept to himself and lived a quiet life. It's unclear if he did anything for a living.
The following American psycho held a family hostage and killed 6 kids.
6 children and 2 adults were fatally shot by a man who was once in a relationship with the children's mother at a Texas home on Saturday. Deputies responded to a request for a welfare check at a home in Houston, Texas at about 9 p.m. on Saturday and spotted the body of a juvenile through a window. The suspect, David Conley, who reportedly had a relationship with one of the victims, discovered on Saturday morning that the locks of the house had been changed after he moved out. Conley then entered the house through an unlocked window at the back. He restrained all 8 victims with handcuffs and shot them in the back of the head. Deputies forced their way into the home, startling Conley and prompting him to begin shooting and forcing the deputies to draw back. Conley surrendered himself after an hour of negotiation. Conley is charged with 3 counts of capital murder and is being held without bond at the Harris County Jail.
Our last psycho terrorized a community college in Oregon.
At least 10 people were killed and an estimated 7 injured after an unidentified man opened fire at an Oregon community college. A shooting began at Snyder Hall at the Roseburg campus of Umpqua Community College just after 10:30 a.m. on Thursday. Student Courtney Moore told the News Review today that she was in her writing class when the shooter appeared. The 20-year-old male suspect shot writing professor Larry Levine. Pictured here, engaged in a pastime he often wrote about. According to Moore, the shooter then ordered victims to lie on the ground. He asked people to stand up and state their religion before opening fire. A school official told KATU that victims were found in multiple classrooms within Snyder Hall. Police exchanged fire with the suspect, who was killed at around 10:49 a.m. The gunman reportedly stated his intentions to attack the school in an anonymous post on 4chan prior to the shooting.
Oregon college shooter took own life after trading fire with cops, says coroner. Chris Harper Mercer, the gunman who killed 9 people at Umpqua Community College in Roseburg, Oregon, apparently killed himself during a shootout with law enforcement officers, police have said. The official timeline of Tuesday's shooting released by authorities show that the first 911 call was received at approximately 10:38 a.m., as Mercer was going about his deadly rampage. 2 Roseburg police officers and a state trooper arrived at the scene within 6 minutes of the emergency call and engaged the gunman just 2 minutes later at 10:46 a.m. Another 2 minutes later, there was a report of a suspect down, according to the police. Initial reports suggested police had shot and killed Mercer, although a medical examiner's report determined that he had killed himself with one of the 6 weapons found at the scene. Police later found another 7 firearms at Mercer's home. The investigation into the motive for the shooting is ongoing.
We may not know why these worthless humans chose to harm innocent people, but it's possible that some of them had a seriously demented case of beta male disorder, also known as beta-uprising. The night before the Roseburg, Oregon UCC shooting, a post was made on the forum website 4chan, warning others of malicious intent. Other anonymous users called his bluff or discouraged him by calling him a coward, but some jokingly posted beta-uprising. The term beta-uprising is a joke referring to beta males who may feel jaded by society or unwanted by the opposite sex. The jokers purport that beta males may resort to violent actions in their futile search for significance. Therefore, the term is often associated with mass murderers. The random 4chan boards R9K and B have a reputation for hating women and, quote, normies, defined by the Urban Dictionary as the 97% of people without a mental illness. The R9K and B boards will live on as playgrounds for the internet's nastiest trolls. However, 4chan remains a rather safe place for the First Amendment to be exercised. Trying to shut down malicious boards or anonymous posters is like playing an impossible game of whack-a-mole. But let's be real, after Thursday's tragedy, the beta-uprising joke has lost its charm.